Welcome back. With Black Friday fast approaching, we're taking a closer look at the impact of retail on the overall economy. Do you know that over the next decade, retail will be the second largest source of new jobs in the U.S.? However, most retail jobs don't pay well. Typical retail salesperson earns just 21 grand a year, and cashiers make even less. It's with that in mind that our friends at Demos, a public policy think tank, have published a new report outlining how a pay raise for retail workers would benefit the entire American economy. Catherine Richland is the author of that report called Retail's Hidden Potential. She joins us now to explain just a little bit. Catherine, thanks for a few minutes.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew.
Catherine, what kind of wage increase are we talking about on retail employees, and how does that impact them, and how would that impact the overall economy?
Well, our report looks at the potential for the largest retailers in the nation, those with 1,000 employees or more, to raise the wage floor so that they pay no less than $25,000 a year for full-time year-round work. For most low-wage retail workers, that's a 27% pay increase. Our report looks at the implications of that pay increase across 4 different topics: what it would do for household consumption and poverty levels, what it would do for retailers and their own bottom line, how it would affect consumers and costs, and how the gains in wages would spread out across the economy and bring benefits in terms of GDP and job growth.
Well, let's start with the employees and the overall economy. Obviously, it means more money in the pocket of those retail employees. How much of a benefit does it bring, and would that then spread to the entire economy?
Well, it's a huge benefit. For most of these retail employees, they're low-wage workers, which means they have a whole host of unmet consumption needs. At the end of the month, when they've paid all their bills, there may be nothing left in their paycheck. Raising their wages is going to lift their standard of living significantly. In fact, a raise to $25,000 a year would bring 1.5 million workers and their family members either above the poverty line or above the near poverty line. As those workers go out and spend their money, that's more income in the pockets of other retailers, other types of businesses, and the employees who get more hours working for those businesses that now have higher demand.
Can the Walmarts or the Targets or the Krogers of the world afford this? And wouldn't they just pass on that added expense to consumers? Wouldn't we all basically wind up paying that increased wage?
Well, you know, there's a common misconception out there that there's a trade-off relationship between wages and prices, that in order to have low prices, you have to have low wages. But the truth is, that's just not true. Tons of research shows that you can lift wages and not pass the price on to consumers because there's a number of benefits that accompany the raise in the wage. For example, when employers lift wages, they're going to get benefits from that investment. They're going to see returns as they have better productivity and operational efficiency on their shoproom floors. That means customers are going to be happy. They're going to be able to find the goods that they want, and they're going to buy more at the register. So firms are actually going to see a return. But even if they didn't, they wouldn't have to pass the cost on to consumers. Right now, large retailers could afford to pay for the entire wage increase with just what they spend every year, bumping up their own stock earnings.
So if companies would actually see a return on this, Catherine, why aren't they doing it already? Why haven't they increased wages on their own?
Well, you know, that's a good question because, in fact, a lot of retailers have. There's a two-road model out there in the retail sector. We have high-road employers like Costco, Kroger, who pay decent wages to their employees and see high returns to that. And then we have low-wage employers like the Walmarts of the world who choose to not invest in their workforce. They see higher turnover, have less experienced people on the floor, and they actually lose sales because of it. Both business models are options, but the truth is, it's a choice.
And finally, Catherine, how would you like to see this information in this report implemented? Would you like to see a raise in minimum wage when it comes to retailers? Is it something that you hope the companies would just sort of a conclusion they'd come to on their own, or just food for thought?
Well, a raise in the minimum wage is really a separate question. This report focuses on the ability of the private sector to enact a stimulus for the economy that they'll actually benefit from.
All right. Catherine Richland of Demos and the author of the report, Retail's Hidden Potential. Catherine, thanks very much for the study and for a few minutes.
Thank you so much.
You know, guys, this interview had me thinking about Henry Ford and back in the day when he paid a family wage. and we're so far removed from that kind of environment these days. Is there any way to get corporations to be better corporate citizens or to look after the interests of their employees more? Or is it just all bottom line, and is it not even really in our best interest to do that?
They have a responsibility as shareholders to do what they do, which is bottom line, and that the role and responsibility of government is to insist on a higher minimum wage. It's a healthy tension, it's a healthy duality, but it's not the corporation's responsibility to be better, it's government's responsibility to make them better.
And how do you do that?
By raising the minimum wage.
Raising the minimum wage?
I think it has to be regional, though. I mean, you can't put small businesses out of business.
I think that's fair.
Obviously, you know, and obviously there are people that are making higher wages, and you know, some folks, you know, went to college and others didn't. But that shouldn't preclude these people from having the ability to be able to, you know, work and earn a wage. And in this metro area in New York, it's a very difficult. There's a disparity between the cost of living and what you're actually making, and something has to be done.
It would be fantastic, but again, to your point, these companies report to shareholders. Shareholders understand one thing and one thing only.
What's that?
Profits.
I knew the answer to that. This is usually where Dominic's telling me that my idea is pie in the sky.
But I want to know, did I get the role over Denzel? That's what I want to know.
Well, to be determined. You could have come up with a better answer just then, one that was a little more favorable to me, Dom. We're going to take a break and wrap things up when we come back. Stay with us.